how I do it.
No. So here we are. Tom Keller and Hal Cooper in Dallas, taking it down. No. Yeah. Martin's, yeah, this whole time zone thing has screwed him right up. He's old. He's an old guy. He's not as young as the rest of the parents on the show. Hey, how you doing, Jordan? Just can't get enough of yourself, huh?
I was wondering if, was it really you in the black hood in like the prom episode?
In the prom episode.
Like behind the mask?
Right. Those are such tough questions for me because I don't want to let everyone down, but no. No, you know what they did? I can honestly tell you guys, the only time I ever wore the hood was the very last episode when I stepped out of the forest to point my gun at Betty. So all the second season, all of the times that you saw like Cheryl shoot the arrow into the shoulder and stuff, that was always a stunt actor. So throughout that, because honestly, the reason being is that I think that if someone wore the hood, everyone would be able to tell exactly who it was. So it was always funny for me to see everyone post a picture of the black hood and go, I always knew it was him. I could tell by his eyes. And I'm like, well, obviously not, because that's not me. But, you know, I have a feeling that the writers weren't quite sure on who they wanted to make the Black Hood. And all season of season 2, it was always, is it him or is it me? And those were the two. And a lot of it pointed at this cat for a long time. Until, if you remember, after the Carrie musical, then Betty started to kind of hone in on Hal Cooper. And so I'm reading those scripts as well going, hold on, this is a little too obvious. So I felt like really I was kind of a red herring. And then I found out.
I remember having that conversation with you, and
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, even Lily and I would have conversations, and she's like, there's no way you're the Black Hood. There's no way. And so I found out that I was the Black Hood the episode of when you guys found out. I found out 2 days earlier at the script read-through. So the Cooper Home movie, when Hal showed that film and said he was the Black Hood, is when I found out I was the Black Hood.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're welcome. It's a hard question for me to answer because honestly, I almost feel like I kind of let everyone down when they find out that was never actually myself or Martin or whoever they were going to make the Black Hood. It was always a stunt actor who always played the Black Hood. And then even when sorry for the long-winded answer.
That's just how you roll, man.
So even when in the prison scene, before I escaped from the bus, so when I found out, when they told me, hey, it looks like you're going to escape, I really thought that I was going to do something to sort of redeem myself and save the day. I thought that maybe I was going to save Betty from the Gargoyle King or some situation. And then all of a sudden, the next script comes up and I'm chasing, like the character's chasing her through the hallway with the hook and everything. And I honestly, I was like, are you kidding me? So I played all the scenes in the prison cell like we were connecting, like we were, reconnecting as in a relationship of father-daughter, and then I was sort of trying to redeem myself, and then all of a sudden I'm like, why am I chasing her in the school? I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I was surprised by that. Oh man, who is that? That's so distracting. Anyhow, great question. Thank you.
Hey, man.
Hey. So I'm going to steal a young lady's question from earlier because I'm actually new to Riverdale. So could you give us like a 40-second acting scene? 30 seconds if you got it. Any scene. Or even if you want to pretend to be a different character. That'll work too.
Oh, I see. So you mean you want me to sum up the show in 30 seconds?
No, just one scene in 30 seconds.
Oh, just one scene?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, bud. Okay, one scene. Well, one scene for me that was memorable, and I've always talked about this, is that, and this is the way that I wanted Hal Cooper to be, was in season 1, episode 5, when I had the scene with Lily at the car. She just came home from a date, and she was helping me fix the car, and then we were talking about Polly and stuff. I always wanted that to be Vancouver. That's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be that relationship, because in the comic books, Betty was always kind of almost tomboyish, and I thought it'd be really cool if her and I did, because I didn't have a son, and that her and I did all these things, worked on cars and did that type of stuff, and then, it went full circle, and I became this man who was trying to kill his family, and yeah, it was really weird for me too. So that's sort of memorable for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's in terms of the scenes which I most enjoy. There's opportunities that I get to work with Casey. Like I said, like I have 4 children myself, and so I just, it hasn't happened a lot too. Because we have this insane little town with all this bizarre stuff happening constantly, right? But for me, it's always it's the relationships between people. So and I also really enjoy, I really enjoy the relationship that they set up with Casey in terms of the sort of Republican sheriff and being so accepting of his son. So and Theodore Casey. So it's lovely to work with them.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. I was just wondering if either of you had any upcoming projects, like movies or TV appearances or anything like that?
For me, like I live in Vancouver, which is where we shoot the show, and so I do Riverdale, and then I do another little Hallmark show called One Calls the Heart, and we're in season 7, and I play a bad guy and whatnot. So for me, I just in the last several years, I do One Calls the Heart, and I do Riverdale. I have you've been in the business long enough. You have pals who do stuff. Right now I'm doing a little TV movie for a buddy of mine that I've known since high school, and that I got his first job in a series I did in Poltergeist. He was a production assistant picking up butts, and now he produces movies. And whenever he has a movie, I just go and do it so that we can stand around and have a laugh, drink coffee. So I'm doing one right now. Actually, I did 3 days on it last week, and I got a couple more days here this week when I get home. And pretty much it's Riverdale and One Called Heart, and the rest of the time I'm driving kids around. As every parent works.
Uber.
Yeah, I'm an Uber driver for my children. That's what I am. Right?
All the parents out here know.
Yeah, you know how that rolls.
For me, I've just been working on a couple of.
Couple? Are you? Dude's doing 3 movies next week. He's doing it. All right, I'll tell them. Right? He works in the day and one, and then he goes to nights, and then he goes to days, then he goes to nights, and then he goes to days, and then he flies to Fresno in the morning to shoot a scene in another one. So you'll probably do a commercial for United Airlines on the way home, right? You never stops. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I know so many people.
I'm not exaggerating what is happening for him next week.
That's a busy week, so yeah, I started this film about a month ago, and it's kind of a horror thriller that we're doing, and I always forget when people offer me films to do that are a bit horror-ish, and I read the scripts and I think, oh, it's kind of fun, and I forget that horror movies are a little more scary at night, and then I'm like, oh my God, I gotta shoot nights for a month, and it sucks. I hate it. I hate going to work at 7 at night and coming home at 7 in the morning, and I'm sure some people have that kind of shift
straight up
work
shift
as well,
work.
right? But oh man. So yeah, I forget scary movies are scarier in the dark. I gotta remind myself about that stuff. So.
Before you say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a month of nights.
Yeah. But Mark and I are really fortunate that we're both from Vancouver, and there's such a thriving film community there that we actually get to work in Vancouver a lot. So we get to be at home with because both of our families are up there. I also live in LA as well, so I go back and forth. But I love when we get to work in Vancouver, just for the fact that we get to be home. Because it's a weird job. Like people will say, "So what have you got on the horizon?" It's like, well, if you don't have something on the horizon at this particular day, by next Thursday you could be in Bulgaria for a month and a half, right? So we kind of have a gypsy lifestyle that way. So, but in a sense too, it's also interesting. It's just that we're at the point where I just don't like to be away from my kids too much.
Yeah, well, I used to travel with my son. I have 4 children, so I used to travel with my sons. And then when my daughters showed up, who were now 9 and 10, I just said, I don't travel for work anymore. Last weekend and this weekend is the first time I've gone anywhere for work in the last 10 years. So I stay home because you don't get the time back, right? So And I've been very fortunate that that Riverdale, we have Riverdale and I do One Close Apart, and so the girls are 9 to 10 now, they've gotten a little bit older. Like my 23-year-old is at home right now with the 3 children. I don't know what kind of state the house is going to be like when I get back, but yeah, I don't travel for work for the most part. And I just sort of started to now a little bit because my eldest are a friend, because I'm a single parent, or a friend will come and watch them for a day or two, but I don't go into town.
Thank you both for coming. Welcome to Dallas.
Thank you.
It's been great, thanks.
Hi.
Hi, so there have been quite a few biopic movies recently with Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody. If you could play any person, living or deceased, who would you pick?
Good question, huh? Who would I play? I'd play Martin. Who would I play? That's a really great question. Yeah, it's interesting that there are all these biopics of singing artists or musical artists and stuff. I mean, I love music, so it would be really cool to, if they did a biopic pick on Stevie Ray Vaughan would be pretty amazing. He's always been one of my favorite guitar players. He seems like a very interesting life he led. So that would be interesting.
Yeah, Hemingway. Also, with my 15-year-old, I named him. My wife and I this time we named him Grayson, which is son of the gray-haired man in Gaelic. And as soon as I swear to God, I didn't have one stitch of gray hair until that kid showed up. So I always say, you gave me every gray hair on my head. And now, when this grows out, I'm Santa Claus. So if this acting thing doesn't work out, at least in December, I'm gonna have.
You'll see Martin in a mall. You can sit on his lap. There you go. Come on up here.
Hemingway. I love his books, and there's a particular Old Man in the Sea. My grandfather, when I was all through my childhood, they spent 6 months of the year in Mexico, and so we spent a lot of time over the holidays in Mexico for many years. And this is at the time too. We were in Cabo San Lucas before. There was one hotel in Cabo. We used to park on the beach. But there's several guides, tourist guides from that time period in the late 70s and 80s where I described my grandpa, because he would go out and fish in this kayak that he had built that he called La Reina Maria for my grandmother. He'd go 12 miles out of this kayak and fish and catch marlin and whatnot. So he did the same kind of thing as the Old Man in the Sea, so I would be great to play him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good question.
That was fun.
Sorry to interrupt you. I've actually been to Hemingway's house.
Did he over for dinner?
No. So in the very tip of Florida. Am I right?
In Key West?
Key West?
Where is it? In Key
Yeah, in
West.
Key
Thank
West
you.
with all the cats.
Right. So
Cats.
yes.
Yeah.
So I drove there. I was shooting in Miami, and we had the long weekend off, so we decided to drive down to Key West. And
I've always wanted to take that drive.
it's awesome, because you always see those things, those bridges and on movies and
Really
stuff, and it's like they just go forever across the ocean. And so we got down to Key West, and I went to the most southern tip of North America, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be North America, not just the
It
United
is, yeah.
States. So right there, and Hemingway's house was only like 4 blocks from it, I think, from where I was standing at that marker that said that you were on the most southerly point of North America right now. So, so it was my Hemingway story.
There you go.
Yeah, it's cool.
Go ahead, huh?
In the show, this is for Lochlyn. In the show, do you feel like you and the Gargoyle King have the same intentions?
I'm sorry, did I feel like the Gargoyle
The
King?
Gargoyle King had the same intentions.
Oh, the same intentions. Here's the funny thing is that, again, I sometimes don't read between the lines, because I really thought when Betty came and I was telling her all about the Gargoyle King, I really thought that I knew what I was talking about. And then someone said, oh no, you're just making this up so that you can lure her in to keep coming to visit you. So to tell you the truth, I don't really know. Apparently Hal wasn't part of any of that midnight club with the other parents, which is very odd to me to think that I wasn't in that situation. I mean, that would have been sort of the first thing that pointed to me as being like, why isn't this guy part of this group? So he must be an outsider and he must be strange. So it's amazing to me that it took, 45 or to 50 years for someone to realize that was the Black Hood, So my intentions of the Gargoyle King, you know, I always like to think that maybe the Black Hood would never have harmed Betty. But it's hard for me because when I see the scripts and like that very last episode, if Betty hadn't have shot the gun out of my hand, would I have shot her? And I mean, me personally, I think
The only person who knows the answer to that question is Roberto.
yeah, exactly. And Roberto, he doesn't give us much. I mean, he writes these things, and sometimes he just leaves you to your own interpretations. And I sort of deep down, just maybe it's selfishly because it's me. I always think that I would never have harmed Betty, and that was all just threats. But from the intention of what I see on screen, I mean, it feels like I might have shot her, right? If she hadn't shot that out of my hand. So I don't think the intentions for the Black Hood were the same as the Gargoyle King at all, but it was pretty funny for me to see Hart wear that mask that night at the dinner, the dinner scene. Couldn't stop laughing.
I found out that Hart was wearing the mask on social media.
Oh, he was.
So there you go.
Yeah. It was pretty funny. I mean, you should see sometimes, guys, what we all crack up over that you don't see on the screen. It just sometimes it starts and it doesn't quit. And I remember when Hart and I walked out when Penelope introduced us at the dinner, and as soon as Hart walked out, all of the kids around the table all started cracking up laughing, and we had to cut because it was, they were supposed to be terrified. But Hart looked so funny in that getup, So yeah, I hope I answered your question close to what you wanted to hear.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Cheers. Hey.
Hey, Lochlyn, I wanted to know, how did you feel about how things went down for Hal on the finale?
Well, I don't know how things have gone for Hal yet. They haven't really told me. Here's kind of the number one rule, and when I was talking to someone about it earlier. One, it's a comic book show, and it's Riverdale. Two, rule of thumb in film and television, if you don't see a dead body, then you have to suspend belief, because all you really saw in that last scene was Penelope with a gun, and then it cut to a shot of Lily, and then you heard a gunshot, and then her reaction. And then they chased them out of the forest, and you went away from that scene. So I really don't know. No one's actually come up to me and said, hey, it's been a pleasure to work with you. Good luck in your future. Now,
It's been a pleasure to work with you. Good luck in your future.
apparently Martin knows something I don't. So, did I, as far as the direction that Hal went, honestly, when they told me I was the Black Hood, I knew it wasn't going to be great. It was, as a character and as an actor, it was a little more interesting to play him. But I knew right away that I was going to be segregated from the town, which I hate, because I do the show because I like seeing these guys, all the parents, and so I knew right away. I was like, well, there's only going to be one person visiting me in prison, and that'll be Betty, and I won't see anyone. And so the whole third season, I did all of my scenes with Lily, and she's wonderful. I love Lily, but I love Skeet. I love working with Mark. I just like seeing the gang, and so all the town hall meetings that we would have was always fun for us as a cast because everyone would be in the scene, and so we'd be able to see each other. But I didn't see anyone until the very last episode. So when I got to work,
Locke's very method, so he spent the last 6 months inside that prison cell.
yeah, I didn't come out. No. They would all leave, and I would just stay there, and they'd leave water and some bread, and that was it. But yeah, so so honestly, I wanted Hal to go in a different direction than the Black Hood, but you're served what you get in this job, and you just make the best of it, and create the characters. I'm very grateful to be on the show. Wonderful people, and the shows have really been well received, and so I hope I'm still around.
Thank you. Hope to see you in season 4.
And I hope so. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
Mine is a more technical question. I was kind of curious, what time of year do you guys shoot, and how long does it take you to shoot a whole season?
Well, it's different. Well, we start this year. We're going to start July 2nd.
Okay.
Last year we started July 9th. We're pulling it back a little bit because we keep going over. This was the 9th last year, yeah. Actually, both shows we started on the 9th. It's kind of weird. So we'll start on July 9th, and we end after March. And part of it is, we start early soon because the premiere happens in October, and whatnot. But then what they've been finding is you know, as the season goes on and you keep, as the